Is there any hope? Has anyone been in a similar situation? Any success stories? A full analysis of my 32M and my GF 30F relationship through my perspective. I am a 32-year-old male who met my girlfriend, who is 30, in February 2018 at a bar. In July, she commented on an Instagram video of me diving into the pool at my apartment and suggested we meet up. That evening, she came over, spent the night, and thereafter, we were together every day. By October 2018, I discovered she was still in contact with several men she had previously slept with, discussing them as if she were proud of it. This made me quite uncomfortable. One night, after it became evident that we liked each other deeply, she mentioned that she was going to clean her father's house, but instead went out partying and ended up staying the night with one of those men. This was a significant blow to my trust in her and my self-esteem. When I confronted her, she labeled me as insecure and leaned on that man for emotional support. This sparked our first major argument, and she even considered moving out due to it. She repeatedly told me that I was overly insecure and immature, claiming that a real man would not have any issue with that. But then, on the same day, her home caught fire, and we went to retrieve her dog from the debris. The disagreement was forgotten, and our relationship continued. A month later, I got extremely intoxicated on Thanksgiving, likely embarrassing her. The following day, she became blackout drunk despite my pleas for her to stop, ruining my opportunity to celebrate my birthday with friends. When she finally sobered up and we went out, my friends were already leaving. She confessed that she had done it intentionally to keep me to herself. On our way home, I raised my voice at her for the first time, feeling that she had undermined my birthday. In December 2018, we moved into a studio apartment together. Previously, she had been living with me and my former roommate. She revealed a fetish for watching me with another woman, and although I was reluctant, I acquiesced. Afterward, I felt remorseful, but she appeared unbothered. I realized that if she were to do this to me, it would cause her pain, which is why I hesitated and felt uneasy. I simply did not want to hurt her. At that time, finances were tight. In March, we moved in with her brothers, living rent-free until June 2019, merely trying to make ends meet. I drove for DoorDash daily to cover expenses while she concentrated on her studies. In all my spare moments, I attended school with my girlfriend, spent time in the library, updated my resume, and applied for jobs. I desperately wished to keep her with me forever. In May 2019, I secured a full-time position as a staff accountant. She focused on her studies, and for a period, things seemed to go well. We relocated to a new apartment with her brothers, where I shared the rent with them. However, by this time, I was covering her phone bills, meals, and rent, while she used her student loan funds for clothing and going out with friends. In July 2019, I traveled to San Diego with friends. I called her to check in, and she indicated that she wanted me to sleep with another woman and share the details with her. I went out, got drunk, and brought a woman back to my hotel, but I was too intoxicated and fell asleep without engaging in sex. The following morning, I found a note with the woman's number on my table and texted her. Although we never had sex, my intentions were there. When I returned home, I did not inform my girlfriend about it as I felt humiliated and was afraid to admit what had happened. I believed that telling her would only cause her pain. I was frightened to reveal the truth. Deep down, I knew it would hurt me, and I couldn't understand how she could possibly enjoy this. I thought it might be a test. She discovered my actions by going through my Instagram account. When I woke up, she smashed my phone and was furious. I apologized and attempted to explain, but the damage had already been done. From that moment onward, she began sleeping with other men while I was at work, sending me videos, disappearing for days, turning off her phone, and keeping me in the dark about what she was doing or who she was with. She showed no regard for my discomfort. Her goal seemed to be to make me feel uneasy. At one point, she went to Palm Springs, and I had to rent a car to pick her up. The man she was with gifted her a jacket, which she wore constantly. This bothered me, so one day I took the jacket and said I intended to dispose of it. In retaliation, she destroyed every piece of my clothing using scissors. She told me I deserved it. I did not discard her jacket, and she still possesses it today. This moment nearly marked the end of our relationship, but I forgave her for smashing my phone and ruining my clothes because I felt guilty for lying. I thought it was my karma. Shortly thereafter, my girlfriend created a Bumble account for me, but she managed everything who I communicated with and who I went on dates with. This was due to the fact that whenever I attempted to manage my own accounts, I unintentionally breached boundaries that had not been clearly articulated, thus making it feel safer for her to oversee it on my behalf. Meanwhile, she was dating other men without any limitations. I pleaded for transparency, yet she continued to delete messages from me. I was not allowed to establish any boundaries. This resulted in numerous arguments because I believed our relationship lacked equality and balance. That November, we traveled to New York for my birthday and Thanksgiving. I appreciated the gifts she gave me, and we enjoyed ourselves. However, while we were out with my friends, she confided in my friend's wife that I was easy to manipulate. I still feel hurt by this revelation. She denies it, but my friend and his wife have always been honest with me and have supported our relationship since that discussion. I see no reason for them to fabricate such a story. In December 2019, we moved into our own apartment. Things briefly improved, but by March 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic struck, and while she received student loans and unemployment benefits, she refused to contribute to our living expenses. Whenever I brought up finances, she would yell at me, diminish my masculinity, and disappear for days, ignoring my calls. Eventually, I yielded, giving her what she desired, remaining silent, and continued to foot all the bills. In June 2020, we engaged in a threesome with another man. I proposed it, thinking that witnessing her with another man would give me a sense of control again after all the times she had gone out with other men, but it only exacerbated issues between us. Before we arrived at the event, I established one boundary: do not humiliate me. She proceeded to humiliate me during the encounter by calling me names, declaring the other man was superior, and stating she would only be with him moving forward. I could not cope with this and left in a rage, while she remained with him inside. She attempted to persuade me to return, but I was unable to handle it. In August 2020, she slipped out while I was asleep and began a 3-year affair with the same man from the threesome. By this time, she completely stopped having sex with me. Between 2020 and 2024, we engaged in sexual activity less than 5 times a year. In September 2020, we had a major altercation regarding finances and her failure to assist with her own bills, resulting in her moving back in with her brothers. She absolutely refused to pay for food or her phone if she was to live with me. This was a deal breaker for her. I still covered her phone bill, even after she left me. While she resided there, I noticed late-night conversations she had with someone. Eventually, I learned she had been seeking companionship elsewhere, but she did not confess for a while. In December 2020, she imposed conditions for returning. We had to relocate to a nicer place, and she could engage with 5 men whenever she desired. I begrudgingly agreed because I did not wish to lose her. She revealed that she found pleasure in emotionally hurting me. So that December, we moved into a luxury apartment that I could not afford. I appreciated that she paid the security deposit and purchased some furnishings. From December 2020 until December 2023, she frequently went out, slept with other men, and would return home inebriated or high. I felt worthless for years and neglected to take care of myself. I began to detest myself and lost all self-respect. In June 2021, my father passed away and my girlfriend chose not to attend the funeral. Instead, she went out partying, posting stories with other men and ignoring my calls. She blocked me while I was at the funeral, which left me in turmoil. How could someone who professes to love me treat me in such a way? She cheated on me in my home while I was at the funeral, though this wouldn't be revealed until 2023. I felt completely isolated, and while at the funeral hotel, I met a woman on Tinder, confided in her, and had sex with her. The following morning, when I informed my girlfriend, she seemed indifferent and quickly ended the call to return to her partying with friends and the men they were with. I felt guilty, but I was unaware at the time that she had also cheated. She had essentially dictated that we were in an open relationship, so perhaps it wasn't even infidelity. However, it felt that way to me. After the funeral, I began to establish firmer boundaries with her. I wished for an improvement in our situation. I also applied to return to school so I could provide us with a better life, concentrating heavily on that while working full-time and spending weekends with her. This period marked the beginning of my girlfriend's concealed infidelity, which she never ceased. She continued seeing that same man for years without my knowledge. In December 2022, I uncovered the ramifications of her affair when his girlfriend exposed them and sent me evidence. When confronted, she would accept it only if I could show her proof. I was heartbroken and took it very hard. I felt humiliated, embarrassed, and ashamed. She ended our relationship because she found my response intolerable after roughly 30 days. I underwent a nervous breakdown and slept on the couch while she remained in our bed for 2 weeks. In February 2023, believing we were finished since she had broken up with me, I went on a date in an attempt to rebuild my confidence. Somehow, my girlfriend found out and called the hotel room. The following evening, she went out and cheated on me in retaliation, then returned to ridicule me, telling me how much better he was than me, and more. This was among the most hurtful actions she could have taken after everything. It felt manipulative, calculated, and controlling. Somehow, we remained together, and as time passed, things improved slightly. By August 2023, she completed her studies and took responsibility for her own expenses, and our interactions improved. Nevertheless, our sex life remained non-existent. From December 2022 to December 2024, we cycled through discussions where I would address our stagnant sex life every few months. She would insist that I needed to support her emotionally, and maybe then she would have sex with me, yet there were no concrete objectives, just her ambiguous interpretation of what I should do. When I asked for specifics, it usually ended in conflict. My girlfriend is not a fan of communication. She evades it at all costs and is reluctant to commit to anything. I would question, "Can you specify what you need from me? Can we establish a timeline or deadline?" This would only provoke her anger and terminate the discussion. In July 2023, I found a highly respected counselor, but after one session, the counselor declined to see us again. He labeled my girlfriend as dismissive and avoidant, and me as anxious and codependent. He stated he didn't want to waste his time, as my girlfriend had not responded to him in a timely fashion, which he perceived as disrespectful and rude. Following that session, we began getting along better and shared moments hiking with our dogs and dining out, but sex remained absent, and we avoided discussing it. My girlfriend was unwilling to do so. By that point, she had graduated, and for the subsequent year, we cohabited peacefully, but sexual relations were non-existent. She was not open to compromise and maintained that the resolution had to come from her perspective. I attempted repeatedly to address the matter, but only her way sufficed. Having been so hurt, I needed compromise. She was not receptive to holding that conversation. Then, in December 2024, my girlfriend and I journeyed to the Philippines together, still in a relationship. In both Manila and Boracay, she appeared perfect, loving, affectionate, respectful, and very sexual. Yet, something felt amiss, as if it was not genuine. I struggled to comprehend how, after years of desiring her to be the ideal partner, she suddenly became precisely that when we were in the presence of her family, and even alone in Boracay. I could not fathom whether this newfound demeanor would endure once we returned to the United States. One evening, she was scheduled for a 2-hour massage, but ended up staying for 3. When I went to check, the parlor had closed, and I began to worry that she might have sneaked away to cheat with the foreign men we had encountered earlier that week. After having a few drinks and feeling frustrated by her absence and a lack of communication, I went to a nearby club alone. I encountered a woman who had administered a massage to me earlier that day and brought her back to our hotel. My girlfriend had earlier mentioned that morning I could balance the scales in a situation like this, but later she claimed it was merely dirty talk. To her, my actions constituted betrayal. I acknowledge what I did was wrong. Upon our return home, she had intercourse with 2 men and sent me videos of it as revenge. Then, she ended our relationship. She signed a new lease, purchased new furniture, and said we could possibly work things out if I was willing to find a counselor, pay for it, and move forward with her. However, I found this to be manipulative, particularly considering we were meant to be budgeting and saving for our future goals. Spending $10,000 to relocate across the street did not seem financially responsible. Thus, I opted to remain where I was and allowed her to move out alone. Throughout our relationship, my girlfriend made choices that resulted in significant financial loss, making it challenging to be with someone disinterested in a budget or future planning. She would become upset whenever I attempted to initiate that conversation. These two issues, our budget and sexual life, were perpetually the source of our explosive arguments. Reflecting on this, I realize how much I sacrificed trying to retain someone who may have never genuinely valued me. I suffered through manipulation, financial exploitation, and years of infidelity while desperately striving to make things work. I also recognize my accountability for my acts of deception and infidelity. If I truly wanted improvement, I should have sought counseling rather than lashing out and trying to reciprocate her actions. I simply wished to restore my confidence, but after each retaliatory act from my girlfriend, I should have recognized that this was not the solution to our problems. I felt humiliated and aimed to justify remaining with her by emulating her behavior. I never intended to become a submissive partner. Now, I seek to understand why I endured such a toxic relationship for an extended period and break these patterns. A part of me still wonders, can this be mended? Despite everything, I continue to believe in love. I think our relationship was profoundly strong, and we are both just wounded individuals inflicting pain on one another. With the appropriate assistance, we could realign and cultivate a beautiful life together. The reason I am expressing all of this is to share our complete story without omitting any details, so that I can comprehend whether we can focus on restoring what is broken and explore potential paths forward. Story 2. 41F confused about 38M. I, a 41-year-old female, began seeing K, a 38-year-old male, 3 months ago. We initially met for coffee, and he quickly requested to meet again. Just 2 days later, we got together and found ourselves utterly enchanted with one another. He started spending every day at my place, and shortly afterward, he decided to move in with me. Everything was going well for about 2 months, until one night I woke up in the early hours and noticed he was absent. I stepped out of the bedroom and noticed the kitchen light was on, yet no one was present in my home. The front door was unlocked, but he was nowhere outside. I sent him a message asking where he was, and he arrived a few minutes later. He explained that his ex, with whom he shares 3 children and claimed to have separated 2 years earlier, had repeatedly called him, making him worry something had happened to their children. Ultimately, he revealed she merely intended to vent her frustrations at him. When I questioned why he didn't just hang up, he said he didn't know and suggested I drop the issue. A few days later, I still questioned why he would tolerate such communication, so when he returned from work, I asked him why he engaged with her. He confessed he felt obligated to listen to her because he had cheated on her toward the end of their marriage and believed he deserved her wrath. Apparently, the woman he cheated with recently contacted his ex and disclosed all the sordid details, leading him to feel he needed to hear her out. Perhaps another week passed and he had been working late. He came home, pulled a chair to my side of the bed and said, "Forget it, I need to tell you something." A bit taken aback, I asked him what it was. He stated that he wanted me to know he hadn't cheated on me. Then he revealed that he had not actually broken up with his ex 2 years ago. Rather, they had separated in June 2024. He admitted to cheating on her for 2 years, sustaining a relationship with the other woman until just a month before we met. He noted that his ex was upset because the situation was still relatively recent. I asked if he was cheating on me, to which he replied no, and when I inquired further about any prior infidelity towards me, he again said no. I accepted this, acknowledging that while I was hurt by his dishonesty, we could still try to make things work. About 2 weeks later, I found myself becoming suspicious over minor details. Then, this past Monday, while using Facebook, I stumbled upon a post from a woman saying something along the lines of, "I wish we could spend the night together after being together all day." He had told me he was at his parents' house for the weekend assisting with a catering event, and during our phone calls, I could hear his parents and their dog in the background. Nonetheless, it felt very strange. I texted him, expressing my confusion over the post, and he replied that it was just a girl he had attended high school with, claiming he couldn't control what people posted on his wall. I suggested he delete the post and inform her that he was in a relationship. I also mentioned we could discuss it further when he came home. Later, he messaged me saying, "We are going to argue about this, aren't we?" When I arrived home, he was already there. I asked if he had been unfaithful to me, and he said no. I reiterated that if he hadn't, there was nothing to worry about. However, I requested that he stop communicating with this woman. He became defensive, accusing me of always questioning his loyalty, claiming that since his admission of having cheated, I viewed him differently. Ultimately, I asked him to pack a bag and go to his parents' place for the week, allowing us time to reflect and plan to talk on Saturday. The following morning, I arose early with an unsettling sense of something being wrong. He had provided me his social media passwords, so I logged in. I discovered that the woman from the previous day had tagged him as her boyfriend. Upon checking his messages, I found he had been conversing with his ex, implying the ball was in her court regarding a potential reconciliation. His best female friend had sent him explicit photos, and he had reacted positively. He was also in contact with several other women. At around 3:30 a.m., I called him, telling him our relationship was over. I stated I would reach out on Friday night to arrange for him to collect his belongings on Saturday. On Wednesday night, seeking clarity, I called him to ask why he had acted that way. He admitted he was frightened. We had progressed quickly and began arguing over minor issues. I had been single for 4 years and was not accustomed to sharing my space. He confessed he didn't love me. When I questioned why he introduced me to his children if he had no feelings for me, he responded that he didn't care about their opinions. He mentioned he was considering exploring polyamory. The conversation was chaotic, and after an hour of fruitless discussion, I reiterated I would call him on Friday evening to tell him when to come for his belongings. On Thursday morning, he called to request coming by Friday evening to talk. I consented. We discussed things for 2 hours but did not reach any agreement apart from him stating he wouldn't pick his belongings up the next day. However, he did confess that he lied when he claimed not to love me, stating he loved me more than anyone else, and that those feelings had grown daily. On Saturday, he suggested we have drinks and we went to a local brewery. The outing was pleasant until he accidentally left his phone on the table. His music began playing, so I picked it up to turn it off since he had vacated the spot. As I did so, I noticed there were 2 messages from the girl who claimed they were in a relationship. Although I did not read them, since he previously told me he had blocked her, I recognized he had once again deceived me. Once we reached the car, I asked him to take out his phone. He lost control, driving erratically. Upon arriving at my place, he began striking the steering wheel and removed his Apple Watch, breaking it in the process. I felt frightened, yet concerned for his safety, so I invited him inside. He expressed his fears and ran away, lamenting that he had ruined everything and was about to lose the best thing in his life. He mentioned that his depression medication was ineffective, needing an increase to alleviate his feelings. He indicated he lacked support at home due to their disbelief in medical assistance or mental health resources. We spent 4 hours discussing everything. He explained he was going to delete Facebook and Instagram, intending to block everyone except his ex so they could remain in contact for their children. He expressed a desire to make our relationship work. I recognize these are significant red flags. I thoroughly understand that. My feelings for him are profound. We are scheduled to take his children on a trip next weekend, and I am unsure if I should proceed with it. I informed him I would not make any decisions until after the trip, but honestly, I am uncertain whether I should go. Is there any potential for this situation not to decline again, allowing us to make our relationship work?